Now, let's go to talk travel and... as we know, just as Ryanair had seemed to sort out its problems with pilots in Ireland, a German pilots' union has called a fresh 24-hour strike that will affect Ryanair flights out of Germany tomorrow. It's the latest in a wave of Ryanair walkouts that affected hundreds of flights across Europe throughout the summer. Eoghan Corry, the editor of Travel Extra, is on the line. Eoghan, good morning. Thanks for joining us. A strike tomorrow that we've only just heard about last night. I mean, this is really short notice from Ryanair.
Oh yeah, there's we talked about, I think a year ago, Sean, when I said that pilots have waited for years to see Ryanair just caught in this crux of pilot shortage, which was virtually self-imposed, and it would lead to all sorts of havoc in the months ahead. It did lead to the recognition of the unions. It'd be very predictable, Sean, that straight away that the pilots in Ireland, the IALPA pilots, and the ones in Germany, Vereinigung, would be the ones to play hardest to get. The way Ryanair have worked their way through this, Italy, 23 million is their biggest market in Europe. They more or less squared them off in February. Britain and Spain, they squared them off. But the two that predictably were to cause the most hassle and will play hardest to get, did play hardest to get. Ryanair signed a recognition deal with most of their Irish pilots back in February, but the 95 that held out caused a lot of hassle for the airline over the summer, and the German pilots union would traditionally have seen Ryanair as the bête noire. I'm using a French word for a German situation here, that it actually affected, they would have claimed, their dealings with Lufthansa, because Lufthansa started looking for changes in contracts that were similar to what Ryanair had given, and Vereinigung cockpit, the union concerned, would have made representations to the German Parliament, and in their press statements would have name-checked Ryanair several times over the last 5 or 6 years. They've waited a long time, just as IALPA did in Dublin, to get Ryanair in a situation where they can inflict some hardship on them, and I don't think tomorrow's strike will be the last.
What are the main points of contention that's led to this particular action?
The German ones are a little bit different from what other countries have been demanding. Their agency workers is one of the big issues, but they're looking for a higher base salary. And that Ryanair has quite complicated contracts with their pilots. They wanted something that fitted more with the model, which was the norm in Germany, and that was something that led to quite a long, drawn-out. I think listeners who go to Germany will be familiar with that 18 months between 2015, 2016, when they had a series of strikes on Fridays and Saturdays against Lufthansa. So they're looking for slightly different conditions, but there is a pattern, and it's a worrying one for Ryanair, Sean, that across Europe, the different national unions, and they all come from different regulatory environments and they'd all come from different cultures, but the one thing they're harping back on is that our Ryanair employees, not just the pilots, but all the employees through the airline are employed under Irish labour law. They want to impose local labour laws in their own different countries, and that's probably a place where Ryanair will fight very hard not to go, because it's taken a long time. Court cases in many countries, a very important one in Valencia in Spain, to win the right to employ people under Irish labour law. The unions are looking to roll that back, and as I said, they have waited a long time to have an opportunity to create a bit of hassle for Ryanair. And that's what we have been seeing, and that's what we will be seeing tomorrow. It's also, there's a very important point here to be made, that what the trade unions in different countries have discovered is by calling intended strikes, they can affect the forward bookings of the airline and cause a little bit of stress among the passengers, and also impact on the share price. There was some evidence of that during the summer. So the amount of disruption caused by the various strikes that Ryanair have faced, and they faced 14 different strike threats in different markets in 8 different countries so far. The amount of disruption has been very, very small. One of IALPA's managed to stop 8 flights out of 130, because the amount of publicity generated was where the real weapon that the union could wield. And we remains to be seen what happens in Germany, because they have a very strong membership. They have 400 members.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you finally, will it only be flights in and out of Germany that will be affected tomorrow?
Absolutely, and I don't think very many of them will be affected, because Ryanair has proven adept at flying through the different strike threats. What they have also been adept, and this is, they've been very, very good at retreating since September. They've been very good at contacting. They're pretty much state of the art in terms of their use of technology. They've been very good at contacting the intending passengers, letting them know what their alternatives are. And one of the things they did concede, which they didn't at the beginning, is that they will fly passengers with alternative airlines. They've, as I say, this is their 14th time through this. They've done very, very well in keeping going. But each time, bringing in crew from other places and moving aircraft around cost them money, cost them hassle. So there's absolutely no doubt that the trade unions of Europe, and there's quite a few of them out there, are going to continue to make Ryanair work hard to get through the strikes. But it's also quite clear that the power of the trade unions to bring the airline to a halt, which was one of the threats that was made, certainly has been manifested. It's nothing like that.
OK, we'll leave it there for now. Eoghan Corry, thank you very much indeed for joining us. That's Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra.